not bad. You come back here, huh? Get more.
This camp here in Wati, we're doing water and fish samples and also having youth and elders from the community to participate so that they get a better understanding of how the samples are done and the different reasons why. And at the same time, any questions that they have for themselves or to better understand why they're being done, they have opportunity to ask. So we'll do a demonstration for the youth, how to do the process that we use, the way we record, and the reasons why. So after this demonstration, when we're out in the field, most likely I'll just sit back and let the youth do all the work, do all the sampling and all the recording. So for the first part, before we even start opening any jugs, we have to wipe up, and one of the controls that we have to relieve the amount of toxins and chemicals that may be going into the readings that would give us a false reading. So before every sample, we'll have to wash down with the wipes, and we'll be using sterilized gloves. For this one, we're going to be using the nitrile gloves. We'll be doing the regular water samples. We'll be taking a sediment sample with the Ekman dredge, and then we'll be doing YSI, which will tell us the temperature, water depth, pH, turbidity, and dissolved oxygen in the lake. There are 3 different color jars. We have green for routine, black for nutrients, and red for metals. When we're doing the 3 jars, one thing you're going to want to remember, every time when you're filling it, you have to rinse it 3 times. And you don't have to fill the bottle to the top. And for now, we're doing this demonstration on land, but it'll be out in a boat, out in the lake. And you'll always want to remember when you're taking a water sample to take it from upstream and to pour the rest out downstream, so you're not collecting the same water that you just spilt out. And also, one thing you want to remember when you're filling up the jars, you want to keep as much oxygen out of the jars to relieve as much change to the water. The more oxygen that's in it, the more it'll change our readings the longer we're out here. So for red, that would be dissolved metals. And at every site, we'll be collecting 3 different types. And they'll all be done. And the wipes, again, is to get rid of any contaminants. If a person smokes, you should try not to smoke 2 hours before doing these samples, because the nicotine will actually get into the water samples and make changes to it. We'll be filling up 3 jars. And then along the way, when we're doing the samples, we have a field blank. We'll test one site twice. And this is just a way to test the lab to see if they can tell there's a difference. If they do notice a difference, then we can say, yes, there's a problem. Because the two samples came from the same site, so they should give us the same reading. There shouldn't be much of a difference. And along with the samples, another way to test the lab, we send a travel blank. This one's already filled with regular water. So we'll send it in, and if the lab can't detect that it's just regular water, then we can say there's a problem with the lab, and they'll have to reanalyze all their information again. So that's basically just about it that we do for the water samples. And during the whole time, we have to use the gloves. And the second part is using the Ekman dredge. Because Wati is a really rocky lake, hold on. We're going to use this here. And at every site we do, we'll have this in the boat, and you want to try to hold it as straight as you can. So when we drop it, you'll actually feel the tension hit the bottom, and you just drop it. And what we want to do with this is to take the sediment off the bottom of the lake. So then when we send this, it'll give us a reading of the heavy metals and any toxins that are settled in the bottom of the lake. And it'll be another way of analyzing water sample and any chemicals in there. We have separate jars for that, but I won't be getting too much into that right now. It's the same process as using the water samples. You want to fill the jar to the top, and you want to get rid of as much air in there, because the more air that's in the sample, it'll slowly degrade your samples. It'll give you a false reading. Yeah, and watch your fingers on these. These are spring activated. The young guys and women here, we're gonna have them use the GPS. For every location, we're gonna want the day, the time, and we want the GPS coordinates. And we'll actually have to put that on to every sample jar. And that goes for the field blank. We'll give the field blank the exact same information as a regular one, so they can't tell the difference. So that's the way of testing the lab, to make sure we got proper readings from them and they're getting proper analyzation. And the YSI will tell us the pH. Turbidity is the amount of dissolved metals or the sediment and minerals that are floating freely in the water. We'll be testing for dissolved oxygen, specific conductivity, how much electricity can flow through the water. What am I forgetting, Roberta?
The depth.
And the depth. So when we're doing all of this, I'll be working with the youth, but I'll have them record all the information. The sensors and everything moist so they don't dry out. You can use regular water, but for this one they added chemicals. This here is waterproof, so you can have it in wherever you want it, at any depth you want.
Yeah.
Go for it. It's yours. And you don't want to let it go. Just hold it in at one height. Drop it in. So at every spot that we find out that we're going to do the sample test, you got to give the exact coordinates. So we'll write those down.
What's going on right there?
So for everything on that sonde you're using, we'll get the turbidity, pH, specific conductivity, temperature. We want total dissolved solids. So it's also going to measure solids that are dissolved into the water. It's going to give us dissolved oxygen percent. It's going to give us dissolved oxygen per milligram per liter. And they can come back to the exact same spot and they'll do the exact same test, and then they can check if there's any change over 4 years. So from 4 years ago to 4 years in the future, we can check if there's any change in the water. For this camp, it's to teach the youth and elders of why the samples are done, but at the same time, the samples that we take could also be used for baseline studies. This next summer will be actually the first year we've gone back to a second location.
Oh.
So next year it's going to be at Wrestle Lake, and then they can compare 4 years ago to the next year. So you'll be able to see if there's any change. Rather than waiting for development to start, we already have our own baseline and our own monitoring to say that this is what the levels we're at, and this is now what we're seeing after development or any changes in the environment. Forest fires, dams, any natural or man-made changes to the lakes and rivers.
Next one is?
It should be specific conductivity. That would be how well does electricity travel through the water.
294.1.
294.1.
Temperature 9.09.
9.09.
LDO 738.
738.
TDS.
And that would be your total dissolved solids. That would be like your heavier metal that's floating in the water. So once we get this information, remember the water samples, when they take it back to the lab, they'll be doing tests for the same thing, but the only thing they won't be able to get is the depth and the water temperature. So if they find a lot of difference, then they know there might be something wrong with the samples, or maybe they got contaminated somehow.
0.
1880.
When you're holding it up, don't put it on your knee because when it closes, it's gonna hurt. So lift that side, lift this one. This one is a sediment sample, yeah. When you fill it, you want to pack the jar so there's no air, and then just top it off. Good. Or even screw it closed like that and just wash the jar off in the water.
Whoa.
This camp went great. It worked out well. All the participants spoke up when they were required to. They didn't wait for anyone to tell them, no, we're going, this is what we're gonna do. Just like today when we went out to do our field samples out at the end of Wati Lake, the boat driver straight up came and said, no, I don't think this is a good idea, we should head back to camp. And rather than sitting there and having us directing them, the people of the community and the people that know the lake spoke up and gave their opinion, which was great. My personal hopes to come out of this is to have a lot of the youth opened up to the scientific and the exploration and the sample part, so that eventually these youth will help me work myself out of a job, so that they're the ones that will take everything further.